Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be at the Meacham conference. The students are wonderful. I get to meet new poets and writers and get to renew friendships with older ones. This first poem I'd like to read to you is I don't know exactly how to say this. Without making myself sound more foolish than I actually am. One Saturday morning, I woke up early for me, and I had this burning desire to watch Treasure Island again, the old Treasure Island film. And there was no explaining it. I didn't know what it was about or anything, but I knew I had to go get the disc and watch it, and I did. And I came back, and immediately after that, I wrote this poem, and it takes off from that. From some of the imagery in there. It's called Childhood. That simply, that richly, the days were underway. And I remember them, breezes wafting from the spice islands of the past, where even now the plums darken almost beyond desire. Almost, well then, beyond. Though with what exhilaration we set sail, tail winds bullying the stitched canvas, our course determined by the stars. Night and day we endured, the sea winds brackish, the repetitions tedious, until we anchored off an island never charted, from which we expected much. Not what we found, the bones of those before us, the earth disturbed, a chest filled with nothing, the light of day. This is a poem. My mother lives out in California, and I go out there. I used to try and go out there 2-3 times a year, and I've slowed down as I've aged. But this was one Christmas, and it was the Christmas just after my sister died, and I'm the only other child that they had, and so I thought I'd better get out there and spend Christmas with my mother, which was being a good son, I know. And I went, and I was out there, and the oddest thing kept happening with her. Christmas Eve, she kept walking. She was doing all kinds of little errands, fixing stuff and this and that, and doing decorations still. And then she kept walking from the front door to the back door, and it's just, she kept thinking somebody was at the door and this and that, and it really struck me. And I kept repeating certain lines over and over again. And I got back home to Tennessee, and I sat down and I wrote this poem, and it's called "My Mother's Name in English." My mother going back door to front. Shadows of frailty, all the way from her kitchen to this small wooden desk I'm watching her from tonight. Back door to front, the two portals swinging on darkness, swinging on light, the winter insistent Bermuda not even knitted back through her daughter's grave. Wiping her hands, back door to front, pursuing a note no one can hear, though her name in English means Iris. Though she is not brave. She would rather not go back door to front, from before knowing begins to after knowing matters, over and over, everything between. I can't even call it brutal, not with everything between. My mother going back door to front, and no one at either, no one at either. Sometimes it turns out that some of our best poems we have nothing to do with, and this is one of them. This is a poem that I take great delight in, yet, and I absolutely had nothing to do with it. I just sat down and wrote it down. They come that way, and then as Theodore Rutke said, you just give thanks to whatever gods there are for giving it to you. This is called Nightlight. It's like going to bed at night. You can't help it. When someone you love dies, you go there too. You try to imagine sitting curled up forever in a space so lightless your hands cannot be seen. Then, after a while, without trying, you can make out one dim fire like a star very far away. So, there you are. Now you can't sleep with that light on. These are a couple of new poems. I grew up in the Central Valley of California, where it's actually a desert, but with irrigation, it's the richest agricultural area in the world. And I grew up there, and I was very lucky to have grown up there. And this sort of tries to depict some of the plenty and the bountifulness of being there. It's called Paradise. I used to live there. Every morning, the downtown streets were cobbled with gold. Honey flowed, all that stuff. I'm not kidding. Summers lasted a lifetime, broken by Christmas and New Year's. Mornings like waking to someone's scent you hadn't yet met and married for life, though I didn't know that then. The night-cooled muskmelons rolling belly up to the stars, and by late afternoon, the dust-colored dust of apricots on everything. From that earth, my body assembled itself, and when the veil dropped, I tried to say what I saw. The light winds around me died, the shears of summer wavered as though all of it were mirage. Cantaloupes, grapes, clusters of ruby flames like champagne, though I didn't know that then. Nectarines like morphine, nor that. Oranges, almonds, rainbows, tangs, rolling in all year long, that bounty. You tell people that over and over, and it's really crazy. They won't believe you. All that sugar coaxed out of clay, and you can't even give it away. And each dawn more is just piled on. I took as much as I could, like larder, and walked away. This poem is, it's odd about sorrow and grief sometimes. You know, you put it in the back of your mind for years and years and years, and then suddenly you'll have a dream or you'll think of something or whatever, and it'll come back. And so this is called Constant Sorrow. A few years after his wife died, the dreams did too. Ones that had him cooped up inside someone else's car or a train or an almost empty bus. Each time the screen door opening and her watching from a bungalow shadowed by elms, his face flattened against the cold window for a long time, looking back. 20 years, funerals, friendships, everyone weathered, romance, debris. But twice this week now, she has walked into the graveled yard and stood there, young, while he found himself on the far side of the heavy traffic, no longer in it. Both times, it was as though they were neighbors. He nodded. It was hot in the yard. He was weeding or doodling, a man kneeling in the garden of his own mind. Each time he looked, she flickered between the trucks and vans, trying to say something, he thought, because near the end she couldn't talk. And he could only watch her blinking as she tried. He had forgotten that. I can't hear you, he nodded back. I still can't. This is, sometimes it's hard to account for the odd occurrences that happen in our lives. And this is a poem about my sister in a time when she, so to speak, met Barry Manilow. It's true. It's called A Place in Time for This, too. Learning to live in the city, you don't have to walk out under the heavens the last thing each night to feel diminished by the far-off stars. Even if it's raining, those lights are up there in the same way my childhood is somewhere. In the same way, somewhere, my sister languishes in the desert, devoured by microscopic blue-green plants whose fronds made tatters of her lungs and married her forever to the sands. Somewhere, too, Barry Manilow blowing her a kiss from a white limousine on a steep grade in the mountains between Reno and South Lake Tahoe. And my sister, Barry, Barry, firing kisses back. This is the last poem I'm going to read, and it's called Dinner at the Shelter. I'm trying to eat the hash browns before they go cold and waxy on my plate. In a television on the wall, a war reporter is detailing how a man's hands were drilled through and bolted together behind him before his head was sawed off and set tilting on the pavement in a blood puddle next to his sandals. One part of me hears that, but with little effect. It's like a fact before the deed. It's like counting but not keeping count. Like looking at my sister's house by satellite, her gazebo in the back lot, so when the photo was taken, she was living. Also, a red car is parked in front of the house. Probably someone from the sciences who gives everything an official name, like Mycobacterium avium complex. By the time you figure out what is being said, your sister is dead and the war has gone to hell. Thank you.